I was walking through the halls of a Minnesota rink when along came a Wild fan who started talking smack to me. He said, I bet you never liked the Blues until they won a cup. And so I calmly turned to him and said, hey man, listen up. I admit it's pretty great to win Lord Stanley's prize, but listen, I've been waiting for this moment my whole life. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in here, 52, man. Give me a Let's Go Blues. I know Jackman, Johnson, Eastwood, Backman, Waite, Walt, Hanzus, Nash, Drake, Jansen, Boys Young, Jammer King, Salvador, Correa, Brewer, Lowe, Pollock, Finley, Turek, Sanya, Buganecki, Jay McKee, McDonald, Mellon, Bichayana, Kavanaugh, Mason, Manny, Stillman, Stepniak, McClement. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Yes, sir, I'm a Blues fan. Heartbreak's all I knew, man. That team from old St. Lou, man. Got a cup in year 52, man. So give me a Let's Go Blues.
And now, the starting lineup for your Blue Notes podcast. Tom Franklin and the man called Wags.
Thank you very much, Tom Calhoun, and hello and welcome to Blue Notes, located on the best city on the Mississippi, the best in the Midwest. We've got that Stanley Cup power, too sweet to be sour. And if you're still clueless, we're talking about St. Louis. This is your home for St. Louis Blues coverage on the Hockey Podcast Network. I am your host for today's episode, Tom Franklin, not joined by my comrade, my co-pilot, my whatever you want to call him, the man called Wags. This will be my first Wags-free episode for a little while. He unfortunately is a little tied up today, but he also wasn't expecting us to even do a podcast today. I wasn't expecting us to do a podcast either, but here we are because we have some news that we need to discuss here, and also just give you a little Christmas Eve bonus here and Christmas Day bonus as well. So if you're watching the video stream and you're wondering why I'm wearing Buffalo Sabres gear, it is not because I've suddenly switched allegiances or anything like that. As you'll notice, this jersey has the number 90 on it. It also has the A on it, and which means that this is a Ryan O'Reilly Buffalo Sabres jersey. And I always feel good wearing this because it's always good to thank the teams that help turn your franchise around. And I thank the Buffalo Sabres every single day for the trade that brought Ryan O'Reilly to St. Louis in exchange for a bunch of nothing and a first-round pick. God bless you, Jason Botterill. I hope you're having a great Christmas wherever you are. I hope your family is warm and well-fed and taken care of. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts, St. Louis Blues fans. And Ryan O'Reilly is the first subject of our episode for today, and that is because he has officially been named the 23rd captain in St. Louis Blues history. And this was a news nugget that came out from the Athletics' Jeremy Rutherford Sunday night. This was after Wags and I recorded our last episode, and he announced that O'Reilly would be named the next captain, which, you know, we'll talk about his merits in just a little bit here and how I think he's very deserving of it. And I think a lot of Blues fans are in agreement of that as well. And we'll also talk today about the NHL schedule that has come out. Another reason I'm doing an episode today, by the way, for Monday's episode, we're not going to stream it live on as we usually do, but I will premiere it live on YouTube at 6:30 p.m. Central Time, our usual time. It is a 90-minute interview conducted by yours truly and Guy the Hawaii Blues fan with Fox Sports Midwest, or I guess you can call it Bally Sports Midwest pretty soon, Scott Warman, the pregame and postgame host for the St. Louis Blues. He's been at that gig for a few years. He has seen a lot during his time in on the anchor's chair, as I guess you can say. Guy the White Blues fan checking in. Yes, we'll be airing that interview on Blue Notes, 6:30 p.m. on YouTube Sunday night, and then it'll be available wherever you get your podcasts from on Monday. If you're antsy, you can follow the Blue Note Fan Report and check that out as well. And for more insight into Ryan O'Reilly, of course, Guy is his own website now, stlfanreport.com. He wrote a pretty in-depth article about Ryan O'Reilly today. Very impromptu episode today. This is kind of a spur of the moment kind of a deal here, so it may not have the usual organization that it usually has. I usually like to write out everything that's coming up here, but today I just felt like, it's Christmas week. We're all kind of laid back and, sitting around the fire, sitting at home, probably because you can't be with your family because of, this COVID crap. And hopefully you're able to have a very nice Christmas and a very nice New Year's this year. So the Blues, right at about 10 o'clock this morning Central Time, they made it official. Ryan O'Reilly will be the captain of the St. Louis Blues, and they did it with a very nice video that I'm going to go ahead and play for you right now. Here we go.
Being a captain, you're representing, your team, your organization, your city, your fans.
You really have to care about not only the players that are playing with you, but you have to care about, how you conduct yourself, not just on the ice, but off the ice.
The guys in the room and coaches and management ownership, they need to know what they're getting each and every night.
His work ethic is second to none. I think he leads by example. He just has a way of dragging guys into the fight.
Leading by example is maybe the most important thing.
Even when he's not filling the score sheet with goals and assists that night, he's doing things that are making his teammates better.
This guy comes to play every night, and he's helping lead the charge now for the Blues.
This guy has turned into an impeccable leader.
He's everything you want in a leader.
His value to this team is that effort he's putting out.
He's got everything.
And of course, that is Ryan O'Reilly as your new captain. Great, nicely produced video, by the way. I actually, we all knew it was going to be O'Reilly's Sunday night, but you were kind of wondering if the Blues were going to pull a fast one on you because they kept his identity secret for most of that video. And then, once you saw the 90, once you saw the beard, and once you saw him putting on the C, not the A like he wore in Buffalo, the C, it just all kind of became real. And a lot of what was said in that video is true about Ryan O'Reilly. He is a player that leads by example. He may not be the most vocal guy in the Blues locker room. He's not a quiet guy either, just from what I can tell. He's a very good interview. He's very intelligent. He's very well spoken. And that was really kind of put on display. I don't know if you had a chance to watch the O'Reilly press conference where after he was announced as captain today, I believe someone from the Locked On Blues podcast, Toby Welcher, I apologize if I got your first name wrong. He said that, forget captain. How about Ryan O'Reilly for president? And he said that because, he said all the right things. And he talks about, how, he hasn't actually been a captain in hockey since probably his under 18s, he said. So this is it's a little bit of new territory for him. He's either worn the A like he wore in Buffalo here, or he has not been even lettered. He didn't have an A in St. Louis, until he got the C here just this week. So, he kind of talked about how he'll have to grow into the role a little bit. I don't think he'll need to grow into it as much as Pietrangelo did. Alex Pietrangelo, as we talked about earlier this week, he kind of had to grow into that role a little bit. It took him a few years to really fully get it down. But once he got it down, Alex Pietrangelo, I felt towards the end of his run in St. Louis, was a very good captain. Every time you heard him speak after games, he was very authoritative, very, still, you can have a good conversation with him, but he just kind of had an air of authority. Like this was Alex Petrangelo's team. And one thing that we talk about after, in our Monday interview with Scott Warman, we asked Scott Warman, flat out, is this Ryan O'Reilly's team now? Because for a couple of years, you could argue that Tarasenko was the best player, or maybe it was Pietrangelo that was the best player. But after just 2 years, Ryan O'Reilly's impact has been so immense that you could say that the Blues are, his team going forward. Guy pointing out that O'Reilly did wear the A couple times after Tarasenko got hurt, but he was never the C. He's never been the C since he played junior hockey. So this will be kind of a new experience for him. He seemed up for it. He seemed ready to go. He has a good relationship with Craig Berube. In fact, Berube said in a statement released by the team, quote, Ryan's work ethic on and off the ice and his commitment day in and day out is second to none. He leads by example with how hard he works during practices and our games, and he relays the right message from our coaching staff to our entire team, end quote. So, of course, as captain, your main role as a captain is to be kind of a liaison between the players and your head coach. So it's good that both he and Berube have a good working relationship. We've seen in times past, where Blues players may not have had the best relationship with their coaches. Particularly the one that comes to mind is Brett Hull and Mike Keenan. Of course, Brett Hull didn't last long as a captain under the Mike Keenan regime of terror. He stripped it right away and gave it to Shane Corson, right after he started up. So, interesting to note there, but I don't think Ryan will have any sort of issues there whatsoever. And he also mentioned, and I like this part. So he was asked during the press conference that was held today, as I'm recording this, has he heard from Alex Pietrangelo, the former captain? And O'Reilly said that he did. Pietrangelo reached out to him, I guess either via text or maybe at least one phone call, and didn't stop short of just congratulating him. I mean, he could have just said that and moved on about his life, but Pietrangelo offered his help, whenever O'Reilly needed it. He basically extending a branch whenever O'Reilly maybe needed to bend his ear on something, when it comes to the team or the coach or what have you, or just the role of being a captain. It's nice to see Pietrangelo stepping up as, maybe it's not so much a mentor, but as a friend, as someone that has had experience wearing the C for the Blue Note and knows what it takes to be a captain. And you can kind of tell when O'Reilly was talking that he had a little bit of security about that going forward. So that was a nice gesture by Alex Pietrangelo, and I'm really excited to see what Ryan O'Reilly does going forward. I thought he was the best choice among the likely candidates. Two of the other choices that you would have thought maybe would be good candidates were the C, and there's definitely arguments for both. Brayden Schenn and Colton Parayko will serve as alternate captains. Also, Tarasenko will keep his A on his sweater. He'll be an alternate captain as well whenever he does return to game action. Of course, Schenn and Parayko collectively replace Alexander Steen, who announced his retirement last week. In fact, you know what? Luke Whitman did such a good job sending off Alex Steen. Let's go ahead and play his video one more time. What the hell? This is an episode that shouldn't have even happened. It wasn't scheduled to happen, but you know what? Let's just wing it. It's Christmas, damn it.
Goodbye, Alex Steen. Though things didn't end the way you would want, you had a great career that you would never flaunt. They drafted you in the first round, and they didn't appreciate the style you played, so they traded you away. And it seems to me you played the game with a candle to your rear, never wanting to leave the ice when the pain set in. And it was a joy to watch you give it everything you had. Your body gave out long before your legend never will. 12 years with the Blues, first line penalty, kill power play. You didn't need to be the superstar, you let others take the fame. You were player of the month, and would have been an all-star too, but that year was the Olympics, where your team was number 2. And it seems to me you always scored when your team needed the win, like against LA and Chicago when you forced it in. And I would have liked to see you play a season of 82, but when you play the full ice game you did, you're gonna take a bruise. Goodbye, Alex Steen. When Chief slid you down, you didn't complain at all. You put the team before yourself, and everybody saw. Alexander Steen and the fourth line keeping top foes off the sheet all through the playoffs, as team after team we'd beat. And it seems to me you played the game with a candle to your ear, all to lift Lord Stanley's cup, grinning toothless ear to ear. And I'm gonna miss watching you play like when I was a kid. Your body gave out long before your legend ever will. Thank you, Steiner, for the memories and everything you did.
The amazing Luke Whitbin. You can follow him on Twitter at Teriyaki Fingers. If you want to watch that video on YouTube, go ahead and click the link in the description below, whether you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube right now, or listening to the podcast. The description will be there. Please check it out. It is he's an incredible St. Louis Blues musical artist. You know, I think that's, you know, that's a first. You know, I don't know many other musical artists that dedicate their craft to the St. Louis Blues quite like he does. So, but you know, getting back to Alex Steen. So, you know, Steen was the alternate captain for quite a few years, and he also got high marks for his work ethic and also his ability to be a team player. It's been talked about a lot how Berube went up to Alex Steen, you know, in the last couple of years as, you know, his, you know, play on the ice was winding down, really during the year that the Blues went on that cup run after Berube took over. And he talked to Steen and said, hey, Steen, you know, we need you to be on that fourth line to mentor Sundqvist and Barbashev. And Steen did it. It was like a 5-minute conversation, Berube said, and it was no ego whatsoever. He was willing to do whatever needed to be done, and Alex Steen was a good warrior. And I see a lot of that in Brayden Schenn. You know, Schenn is, I think he's more of a gifted scorer than potentially than Steen. I think, you know, Schenn's a guy that could put in 30 goals a year, no problem, if he wanted to. You know, Schenn does a lot of good things on the ice as well. You know, he's pretty good on his own end as well. And having, you know, talked to Schenn after games, you know, myself, you know, you can kind of hear some similarities, you know, in how, you know, Schenn, you know, talks about his team and, you know, talks about the game as Alex Steen did. Very good leader, would have been a good candidate to be a captain, in my opinion, just because I think he has the personality for it. I think he could weather it just fine. and he's going to be a Blue for a long time because with that contract, he's not going anywhere. So I think in a lot of ways, Braden Shen could end up being the next Alex Steen for the Blues going forward for a few years to come. And then Parayko, Colton Parayko was kind of mentioned as another candidate to be captain. I thought it was a little too early for him. He needs to really focus on stepping up his game this year to try to fill that Alex Pietrangelo gap, which you're never truly going to replace Alex Pietrangelo 1-for-1 unless you get a Victor Hedman or a Roman Josi. And guess what? They're not leaving Tampa and Nashville anytime soon. So you need other players, like a group of players to step up. And Parayko is literally going to fill Pietrangelo's shoes as the right-handed defenseman on the top pairing. I think he's very capable of stepping up his game. I think he needs to shoot a little bit more. I think he needs to show a little bit more tenacity out there. He's a big guy, and sometimes he leaves you wanting a little bit more in the toughness department. But he's still a tough kid. He's a good kid. In fact, actually, Ryan O'Reilly was talked a little bit about Colton Parayko today, and O'Reilly even mentioned that Colton Parayko is probably the nicest guy he's ever met. That's his rep. I remember Craig Berube one time saying that if there was one Blues player he would pick to date his daughter, it would be Colton Parayko. Parayko is just an absolute gentleman. I wonder if he's too nice to be a captain going forward. That's the only thing with Parayko. He might cross that line into being too nice, but but at the same time, though, I mean, look at Parayko. He's a big guy. I mean, are you really going to cross? Do you really want to cross Colton Parayko? I don't think so. So I'm curious to see how he does as an alternate captain. I think him getting the A at his experience shows the organization has a lot of faith in him, and I'm looking forward to seeing him grow into that role, as well as as a top pairing defenseman. I think it's ready. He's ready. I think it's time, and we'll see what happens there. Now, the other bit of news today, the 2020-21 regular season schedule has been released, and you'll be happy to know that there are 5 games in the season opener for 2020-21, and guess what? The Blues are going to be one of them. January 13th, they're going to be at Colorado. So a really good matchup to lead off the season there. And that's going to be their lone 2 games on the road. They'll be there on January 13th and 15th. And then they return home to host the San Jose Sharks on January 18th and 20th. Are you noticing a theme here? So it seems like for the grand majority of the schedule, the Blues will play teams twice in one sitting, if you will. So say, for instance, like the Blues will play Colorado twice, January 13th and 15th, and then fly back to St. Louis. And then they'll host the San Jose Sharks twice and the Los Angeles Kings twice. And then to wrap up January, they'll go to Vegas for 2 games and then Anaheim at 2 games. And, a couple things here. Number one, this obviously reduces the travel strain on the team because they're cramming in 56 games between January 13th and May 8th. And that will be the season finale day for the Blues. By the way, they're at Vegas on the May 8th finale. So they're doing a lot of double headers, I guess, if you will. And they are giving the Blues a lot of off days in between. And they're also giving the Blues at least 2 days, it looks like, in between travel days. So that's that will help the Blues. And really, the Blues aren't unique in this. The NHL also will be under the same type of a schedule guideline here. But the thing I like about these back-to-backs is that you might see some of that old style hockey come to play, some of that old hate that you would see between 2 teams. Because if you ever played hockey, I haven't, but it doesn't take too much of an imagination to understand that if you're a forward that is if your team plays a dump and chase and they dump the puck in the corners and you're going to go down there to chip at the puck, you're going to get tired of facing the same defenseman every single time, or you're going to get tired defending their forecheckers, and it just, there's going to be a lot of animosity built up, I think, with this schedule, especially because you're only playing teams that are within your division. So the Blues only play Western Division teams. So you're going to have a lot of friction. You're gonna have a lot of clashing. In fact, the only time they really break from the 2-2 method here is in April, when the Blues will go to Colorado for a game, and then they'll host Colorado for 2. So they'll play 3 games in a row against Colorado, and then they'll play 4 games in a row against Minnesota from April 26th to May 1st. 2 in Minnesota, 2 in St. Louis. And man, you don't even get that kind of a run of games at home back to back against the same team, even in the playoffs. The most you get is 2 at a time. So here you're going to be seeing the same Minnesota Wild team 4 times in a week. You are going to get sick and tired of the Minnesota Wild. They play kind of a boring defensive grinded out style. By game 4, these players are going to fucking hate each other. And I say that with all of the sizzle that those games will have. Those games will have some sizzle. It's going to be late in the season. You're going to be 50 plus games into the season. You're going to be tired. You're going to be cranky. And God damn it, you're going to be tired of trying to check the same Minnesota Wild forward in the corners every single game, every few minutes. It's going to be great for the fans. It is going to be great for the fans, and I think it'll create some compelling games and compelling storylines going forward. Now, the only caveat to this schedule here is they have not announced when start times will be. I saw a tweet a couple days ago. I think it was either from Elliot Friedman or David Pagnotta, one of those two. I'm pretty certain it was one of those two that stated that the NHL would be looking to help out the Blues and the Minnesota Wild with those California and Vegas and Arizona after March, whenever those games start in the Pacific time zone, by maybe moving them up a half hour here, an hour there. They seem like the NHL, all indications are the NHL understands that the Central Division teams, that normal Central Division teams, Minnesota and St. Louis, are getting kind of boned a little bit by this new arrangement. Whereas Dallas, for instance, they're in the Central time zone. They only have to go ahead 1 hour, whenever they play Tampa or Florida or Carolina. That's manageable. If your game might start at 6:00 at night instead of 7, that's fine. That's not a problem. But going back in time, going forward, when you're having these 9 p.m. puck drops, the NHL gets that, I think. And one thing we talked to Scott Warman about, as you'll hear on Monday or Sunday night if you watch the premiere, is that, he confirms, being a Fox Sports Midwest guy, that the NHL never contacted Fox Sports Midwest about, whether they had a preference for, West Coast games to avoid Cardinals games, because that was kind of the prevailing thought, was the Cardinals and Blues are on the same network, and Cardinals are always the team that stirs, the drink in St. Louis per se. So obviously they would probably get, priority, when it came to a 7:00 start. If it's the Cardinals and Blues get bumped. That's just the way it is. So the theory that a lot of fans thought, and whenever Greg Wyshynski, tweeted out that that rumor about the network preferring the Blues going west, you had people basically saying, well, this is the Cardinals here. This is the Blues making way for the Cardinals, and that way the Blues and Cardinals can play on the same network on the same night. And the network's happy because they get 5-6 hours of local sports content. So win-win for them. But as Warman, confirms on Monday, there was no conversation like that. They were not given any sort of input. And I do think, though, that this, the fact that the NHL is saying, hey, we will work with Minnesota and St. Louis so that you don't get late starts all the time. Kudos to them, because that would have been an awkward situation all season long. So, but hey, we have a schedule now. We have a schedule. We know when training camp starts. We know when the season opener starts. We know the Blues will be playing on January 13th. Mark it on your calendars at Colorado. It's going to be a great game. Every game this year is going to be a great game because every game counts. When it's against your own division, and the top 4 in your division go in, guaranteed. You're going to have some fireworks, going to have some fun games, and I just cannot wait for hockey to be back. And I cannot wait for COVID to be over so that hopefully in 2021-22, we get ourselves a regular, good old 82-game schedule. So, also, by the way, just a final little footnote to this episode here. Mikael Granlund signed for Nashville, 1 year, $3.75 million. Eric Halla signed with Nashville for $1.75 million. So there's 2 potential targets that just went bye-bye for the St. Louis Blues. Hoffman's still out there. A lot of rumors that the Blues are hot on Hoffman. I mean, 30 goal scorers don't grow on trees. Even though Hoffman doesn't provide much value elsewhere, you know, he can play a role on this team. Like, say, like you put him with maybe Schwartz and Schenn, for instance, on that first line as a right winger. You know, if he's just a scorer, that's fine because, you know, Schwartz is a two-way guy, Schenn's a two-way guy, and they'll have their top pairing defense out there, which would be Parayko and I would assume Torrey Krug, but we'll see how the pairings work out. I mean, so you're going to have at least 3 solid defensive players. They can mitigate that. And if Hoffman can, you know, rip some clappers, you know, and get, you know, 25 to 30 goals, you know, for what Nashville paid Granlund, 3.75, I think it's worth it. And I don't know enough about the cap situation to where that would be even feasible for the Blues. I think they can make it work. A lot of that depends on what Vince Dunn gets and how the Blues can maneuver with the taxi squad, which will be a big help for the Blues this year, by the way. Anyway, tune in on Monday once again, wherever you get your podcast from, for Guy and I's interview of Scott Warman of Fox Sports Midwest, the pregame and postgame host. And it's a very good conversation. It's 90 minutes, and Scott Warman is full of insight. I encourage you to check that out on Monday. We will premiere it live on YouTube Sunday night at 6:30 in our usual time. It won't be the usual streaming situation, you know, where you can comment during the episode, but I at least want to give you something for Sunday night at 6:30. So I encourage you to follow our Twitter page at Blue Notes Pod. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at those pages as well. Make sure you like us and subscribe on YouTube. Ring the bell, ding, right here, so that way you're notified whenever Blue Notes goes live, because this was an impromptu episode. You had no idea we were even going to go live today in the middle of the frickin' day on a rainy ass day in St. Louis. So ring the bell so next time you will know when we go live, because we might do more of these surprise drop-ins, you know, especially as the season goes on. We did some watch-alongs during the playoffs. Those I thought turned out, you know, a little rough around the edges on my end, you know, just trying to work the video. But now that we have StreamYard, I think it'll be very easy for you to join in on the conversation, join in on the fun. If you're listening to us on Apple, Google, or Spotify, feel free to leave a review and leave a comment. It'll help us grow, and it'll help us attract more Blues fans like you. You'll still be an original Blue Notes fan, but, you know, this thing is growing, and we would love to have more people like you aboard the Blue Notes bandwagon. So that is going to do it for me. I want to thank you for listening, because without you, there is no me, there is no Wags, there is no Guy, the Hawaii Blues fan, and there is no Hockey Podcast Network. I'm Tom Franklin, reminding you to not be a chump and always play to the whistle.
A reminder that you can follow Blue Notes on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Blue Notes Pod. I'm the voice of the Blues, Tom Calhoun. Jeremy Boyer, play us out.
You're listening to the Hockey Podcast Network, your home for hockey talk covering every team in the NHL. New episodes every Monday. Download at thehockeypodcastnetwork.com or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Hello, bonjour, hello, hi, heya, and privyet, hockey fans. Welcome to the Europuck Podcast, the show where two Brits talk all things European hockey as part of the Hockey Podcast Network. If you want to keep updated on all of the latest news, scores, or standings from across the European hockey world, you want to get some insight from some very interesting guests discussing their stories with hockey and how the sport grows around in Europe in different interesting places, or if you want to keep updated with all of the leagues across Europe that are either playing, have been suspended, cancelled, delayed indefinitely, then do check out our latest episodes of the Europuck Podcast every Friday as part of the Hockey Podcast Network. We have a YouTube channel, the Europuck Podcast, and you can listen to us wherever else you get your podcasts. So check us out every Fridays, and we'll see you there, folks.
Psst, you still there? Okay, because you get a little bit of a bonus content here. I have to record the intro and outro for our Scott Warman interview coming up this coming Monday. So I'm going to do that right now. So don't adjust your computer screen or your phone. You know, this is just a little bit of post-production here that you get to be a part of if you're still listening at this point. Hello and welcome to Blue Notes, located on the best city on the Mississippi, the best in the Midwest. We've got that Stanley Cup power, too sweet to be sour. And if you're still clueless, we're talking about St. Louis. This is your home for Blues coverage on the Hockey Podcast Network. I'm your host, Tom Franklin. Wags, enjoying the holiday break. And we have a special presentation for you for this episode of Blue Notes. Hope you're having a very good holidays. Hope your Christmas was merry and bright, and you still got the chance to hang out with your family, maybe via Zoom or Google Hangouts or remotely. Even if you went ahead and had a small gathering in person, all that's reasonable. Hopefully no one got sick, and hopefully everyone had a good time, because it's 2020. This is our last episode of 2020, and we need some good times in our lives. No Thursday episode, but again, and I'm unless there's more breaking news like we did this past Thursday. So don't count on a Thursday episode, but who knows? Maybe I'll surprise you once again if something happens. But in the meantime, coming up here on Blue Notes, after we promote our newest Hockey Podcast Network podcast, or one of them anyway, we will have a 90-minute conversation between Guy and myself with Fox Sports Midwest Scott Warman right here on Blue Notes. And that'll do it for this episode of Blue Notes. I want to thank you for listening, because without you, there is no me, there is no Wags, there is no Hawaii Blues fan, and there is no Hockey Podcast Network. I'm Tom Franklin, reminding you to not be a chump, always play to the whistle, and have a great new year.